This episode is going to be specifically for my women business owners who are mothers or would like to be mothers in the future, or may find themselves in a situation where they are caring for an aging parent. Because there's some really unique things that women go through as primary caregivers in life. We just happen to be people who are the nurturers within our families. And sometimes that can bring some unique challenges to business. So today I want to talk to you about some mindset shifts and things that you want to be aware of as you move through different stages of your life so that you can be more successful in the business that you create, not be limited by your circumstances, and really find more enjoyment in every stage of life that you're in. Hey, you leader, entrepreneur, business owner, solopreneur, whatever you call yourself, we know you're a visionary business builder, wealth seeker looking to combine a passion for doing good with leading consciously. It's time to shift from a traditional focus of pure wealth accumulation to one that integrates well-being and fulfillment. You're here for a purpose, and it's time to shine your light. So here we go. Welcome back to the Conscious Edge podcast. My name is Alicia St. Germain. I'm your host and founder of the Conscious Edge, where I help women business owners get out of their own way so that they can reach their goals, live the life they want, and enjoy the process doing it. If you are brand new here, hit follow or subscribe if you enjoyed today's episode. We'd love to have you here. We produce these every single week. So this is an episode that is really near and dear to my heart, as I have been reflecting over the last several weeks about my journey in entrepreneurship as someone who always wanted children and someone who now has children, and how it has looked different at every stage of life, and the things that I wish I had known sooner and implemented sooner, so that I could have had maybe an easier experience and really embraced some of the hard, challenging moments that I went through as both a mother and an entrepreneur. And I just wanted to share that with you to maybe give you some insight, some mindset shifts, some things that may help you in this process to plan ahead and have a better experience than I did. Because I always think if someone had been there to tell me the things that I know now, what a different experience I would have had if I really, now, do I think I could have heard it? I don't know. But if you can hear me in going through this, it will make such a big difference for you. So as I was getting started, I was looking up some statistics on women business owners, women in general in any kind of business environment. And I found a statistic that was published by Forbes about 20-year-old women starting full-time year-round careers would make $407,760 less over a 40-year career than their male counterparts. Now, this isn't to take a stand against men and say, you've done something wrong. It's nothing like that. I have some of my own thoughts. And I have also found some research and statistics out there in numerous different sources that really talk about the pay gap for women in general. And even when we look at business owners, a lot of it, I do think, stems from also our role as caregivers. There's some societal standards that, of course, we have taken a stand with, gender equality and things like that. But specifically, the part that really resonates with me is the part where we as caregivers for children, oftentimes a lot of that falls on us. And so because of that, the ability to work maybe the way that we want to work, the amount that we want to work, the time that we take off for having children, and when someone gets sick, it's typically oftentimes the mother that is off. I know between me and my husband has paid time off And oftentimes I choose to be the one that's off with kids because I have the flexibility within my business to be able to take off more easily, whereas he has an allotted time. But it also is not lost on me. And we've had a lot of conversations about sometimes how it's actually really not appropriate for me to be off because sometimes I have things that I can't reschedule or that I shouldn't be rescheduling because it's at the detriment of my business, whereas he has paid time off that is available to him because of the career that he has. But so often these conversations are not had because it's just expected oftentimes for us as women and for us as women business owners to be the flexible ones that take off and move our schedules around in order to accommodate sick children and things like that. So again, this isn't like I have some perfect answer about it, but what I really want you to take away from this today is number one, you're seen and that you're not alone. And so many women go through this. And also to offer you, though, some perspectives and some options that may be available to you, like having those hard conversations with a co-parent, with someone else who is parenting with you, whether you're married or not, about what it looks like to really show up for your business and when that other person can step in those emergency situations. That's just one example and one place where we as women can stand up for our businesses more because it affects us financially. If we are not showing up for our business, there are implications that affect the bottom line and the success of our business. There's a whole host of other things too that I want to talk to you about. So I really want to address, and I see motherhood as several different stages. And I'd also group in a caretaker aspect of this as well, because there are those who want to be mothers. And so they may be married, may not be married. They know sometime in the future that they want to be mothers. And that's one group of people. The next one would be the preschool aged mamas. So those that are pregnant, planning for little babies, all the way up to the point where your kids are in school full time. Then you've got your school aged kids. And then you have a period of time where you have adult children. And then as that progresses, those children start to have children, and you may want to become the grandparent, the caregiver role within that. And you may still have a business that is going on. And this other unique aspect of being a caregiver is now we have aging parents. And so I really see from our 20s all the way up through later in life, when we become the older, wiser individuals, we have all of these different stages of life that we serve a human role and an important, probably in my opinion, one of the most important, beautiful roles that we serve in this world. And this is just, again, my perspective. I know not everybody may see it this way, but I do want to acknowledge this aspect of truth. It doesn't make someone else's truth wrong. And that's one of the things that I have learned over time is that there are so many truths, and two things can be true at the same time while conflicting with each other. So when I speak to like one aspect here of my perspective and the perspective, I think that a lot of women I talk to and coach, all kind of going through these same challenges at different stages of life, these things can be true without negating someone else's experience. So I want to be really clear. I'm not taking a stand against anyone else. I'm not comparing my situation to anyone else per se. I am to say that their experience is wrong or that it isn't challenging for someone else. This is really just to express this particular perspective. So as you're going through, the other thing that I found very interesting in some of my research that I was doing in preparing for this podcast episode is that also women generally start businesses later in life than men. And so that's really fascinating because oftentimes I can't tell you the number of times that I hear a woman say, I will do this in my business. So they may have their business that they've grown to a certain level. They've done a few things and they say, I will grow my business when my kids are out of the house. Or they would say, like, they might have started with, I will grow when my kids are in school. I will grow when my kids are out of school. I will grow when we get through this period of time with my child. And so there's always this constant delay and this belief that it isn't possible for you to be able to do what you need to do or want to do and envision for your business at the same time that you have children at a certain stage of life. And it goes on. And if that's something that you have said, that's something that I hear that same person saying with each new stage of life, which tells me there's an assumption that is conflicting with why it has to be a choice between one or the other. So if you're new here and you haven't heard the term big assumption before, a big assumption is something that you believe at an unconscious level to be true about the world and the way that you exist in it. And it informs your thoughts, feelings, and behavior. So it's super sneaky. And it's really good at making excellent excuses and justifying your behavior of playing small or not really showing up fully in your business. It is so good at making it justifiable. So when I see someone saying that, I'm really curious to know, okay, what's really the belief that's under there that makes them keep making the same excuse? And what I think is really interesting about that is it's such a scarcity conversation because it's really saying that there isn't enough, right? So it's a scarcity conversation. There isn't enough for me to do both. And so I have to choose. And of course, as parents in general, we're going to choose our children. It's so often that it's such a struggle because the working mom, the mom who's showing up fully in her business, she feels guilty about not being there enough for her kids. The mom that is home with her kids and feeling great about that, but really deeply desires to be in her business, feels guilty that she's maybe not producing as much income as she could be, or that she's not showing up fully for her business, or feeling guilty that she'd rather be in her business and finds it more stimulating than being with her kids. So it seems like women who are mothers are in this no-win situation trying to figure out how to be in both places. And it's challenging, right? And so the thing I would say is the most supportive and has been the most supportive for me is really to be very intentional with my time and looking at those moments of guilt to say, is this just an unconscious wiring that's saying I should feel guilty? Or am I really not putting the time or energy into the appropriate place? So if I'm 100% available and there and raising my kids, but I feel guilty because I'd rather be over here in my business, is my own need being met? And how do I solve for that? That's the biggest thing that I see in some of the challenges that we face in motherhood is it doesn't have to be a choice of one or the other. It's coming up with a solution that works for you. When I was first starting my coaching business, I had little children. Like I think my son was 8 months old. I was already certified. I got certified as an immunity to change coach when my daughter, I started the certification process before I was pregnant and finished it up after my daughter was born. So it took me a little bit longer to get my certification because she didn't sleep and I was so sleep deprived and I needed it to move slower. And the coaching certification company that certified me, they were so supportive and so kind in allowing me to have it take a little bit longer. But I did ultimately get certified. And then when I decided after my certification to then take that and start a coaching company, my son was 8 months old. So I already had these preschool aged children when I was starting a company, when I was starting something new, and I was learning all the marketing and I was learning how to do everything. And so that was a particularly challenging time. And the coach at the time that I was working with, her solution for me was to get childcare. But that wasn't my vision. My vision was to really be there with my kids and enjoy my kids. And so no one said, well, that's fine, you can do that. But here's the reality. Your business is going to grow slower. If you're going to actually sleep and take care of yourself properly, then you may not have the accelerated growth that other people are going to have in the program. And so I found myself really beating up on myself and sacrificing my sleep, not sleeping well, working during their nap times, which my daughter barely napped, working late at night. And so I ended up in this very exhausted state with not really great results. And I was so down on myself because I was someone who was used to being a high performer, creating great results. And I didn't understand why I was doing what I was told to do, and I was feeling worse than ever. And I think sometimes people aren't really realistic with moms who have preschool aged kids about the demand on your time that there is. So yes, your choices are you're going to need some kind of support, or you're going to have to understand or be okay with slower growth, because what I learned about that time with my children is they really are on loan. And I wanted to soak up every single minute. What I wish I had realized or known was that if I worked slower, it was okay. If I took care of my body, it was okay. It didn't make me a loser or a bad person. It was the truth of my reality. And there was no one saying those kind words to me to say, this is the stage of life that you're in and it's okay. If you are not a mother yet, the one thing that I would give you as advice, and you're not a mother yet, and you want to have children in the future, you have the gift of time. And when I look back at that time before kids, I had so much time, like naps, lunches with friends. I could work when I wanted to, how I wanted to. And I thought that having my own business and having children meant that I would have this flexibility to keep doing the same. What I didn't anticipate was the toll on my body that being a mother had, regardless, like children they don't sleep. I don't know where sleep like a baby came from because they don't always all sleep. And they are a tiny human that is dependent on you for literally everything. And no one else in the world will take care of your baby the way that you will, and the way and the depth that you will. And it is such an uncomfortable moment of realizing that there are other right ways to care for your child. Number one, someone else can do it. Your husband or your spouse, the father of your child, very likely is capable, but because we want it done a certain way, we can become very controlling. And so the amount of time that it takes also can be from us not trusting other people with our babies. So there's so much that's like wrapped up in there in how you show up as a parent. But going back to the women who don't have children yet, you have this gift of time. And what I would say to you is, because you don't have children yet, the more you can get serious about building your business with the intention of having children. So really figuring out ahead of time, how much will you need to pay for the kind of support that you will want so that you can show up for your babies the way you want to. Now, that can look like if you want in-home childcare, know and plan for what is that going to cost ahead of time so that you can start either banking away that money or have the revenue in your business built to a point where it sustains that. So that's number one, if you want that in-home childcare, because you're going to stay working in your business at the same level that you are, you're going to need some kind of childcare. Now, if you've got other family that supports you, that's amazing. And what's your backup plan if it becomes in the future that person can't do that for you? So just whether you are going to have someone who's going to give you support that's a family member, a parent, or someone who's delighted to be with your children, things can change on a dime. That family member, that parent can become ill and not available. So the more you can already have built in for yourself what that childcare will cost, even if it ends up being bonus money that you don't need to spend, do that. Start to build your salary, your income in your business to support having that support, whether you're going to have to pay for it or not, because things can change unexpectedly. So that would be one piece. It's really no different than when we're like, I think of real estate, like when we're evaluating real estate and you're going to be owning a property. And we say to people, like, plan for property management. Even if you're going to self-manage, if something happens to you, you're going to need to put a property manager in place. So plan your deal, run your numbers with property management, run your numbers with childcare, because you potentially could need it. And so put that in place. The second thing is if you are going to want to be the primary caregiver for your child, then start planning ahead now to have someone take over some of the roles that you do within your company. Start training. That's actually going to make you more scalable. So whatever timeline it takes for you to have children, or if that ends up not being part of your path or something that you choose, if you're planning for people to take over parts of your role rather than you being in it all the time, that's going to free up a lot of your time. And then when you have children, you're able to then go have that maternity leave, have that time with your babies when they are not in school, and your business will continue to run and flourish. That's what I didn't have time, didn't understand before I had children, and I had the time and I could kick myself. But you know what? Hindsight is 20/20. And the only thing that I can do to make it right is to share with others and teach someone else about how to make their life better. That's really what makes this learning process for me okay, is that I can help someone else's, some other woman's life be easier, better, help her be more present and more whole, take better care of herself. That's, to me, the wisdom that I get to pass down because of the experiences that I've had. And so I didn't have that benefit, right? And so my other businesses could have continued to grow had I realized how to build a business where I didn't have to be in it, because I didn't want to be in it. I wanted to be with my kids. And so because of that, my growth, number one, I ended up leaving real estate for that time because I couldn't figure out how to build my coaching business at the same time that I could sustain a earned income in real estate and be a present mom. Like, there was something that had to give, and there was no one saying, well, here's how to run a budget and plan for the salary of someone to replace you. Or here's what we need to do to make sure you can have really high quality in-home childcare, because I didn't have a parent that was living close enough to be able to be a primary caregiver because of where I chose to live. So that's one of the other pieces, is sometimes we want to spend time in how it should have been, and that's not helpful. So what we really want to do is look at your situation and your needs and what do you want to have happen, and start making plays or moves in your business to make that happen. Now, if you've already got these preschool age kids in your life and you do want to be the primary caregiver, like permission to just accept that for right now, your business may not grow the way that you want it to, because you're either going to burn out in that 5 years that they're home, 5 years or more, right? Depending on if you have multiple kids, because you're not taking great care of yourself because you're choosing your business and your kids and not yourself. But maybe permission to take really better care of yourself and really be present with your kids and figure out the financial piece if you have that pot, if that's available for you. Now, I know not every woman has a support financially where they can afford to do that, but there's always a way to work through this. There's always a way to start to figure this out. But so often our mindset of this is how it has to be. I can't make more money because I have kids. I want to be the primary caregiver. I can't afford childcare. I have an unsupported spouse. All of these are you being victim to your circumstances. Instead of stepping up and saying, how am I going to change this? What else is available to me? How do I get with other women and problem solve this? Because that's all it is. You're one solution away from a better circumstance for yourself. But also, if you have the ability to have a spouse that is supporting you more, and that's what ultimately I went to my husband and I said, hey, look, when we got married, I told my husband I would never be the kind of woman that needed her husband's money. And so he should go do whatever made him happy. We met when he was kind of in a career change and figuring out what he wanted to do with his life. And I said, I will never be the kind of woman that needs her husband's money. Well, did I get forced to eat crow? Because I needed my husband's support. And I had to go to him and I had to say, look, I'm going to build this coaching company. It's going to grow slower than I want it to, but I know this is what I'm meant to do. I know that this is my passion. I'm excellent at it. People's lives change when they work with me. And I really feel called to do this. And I don't want to put our kids in childcare. So I need you to take over more of the bills. And fortunately, he has a great job that could sustain that time in our life. And we figured out what he needed to pay for, what could I afford to pay for, and he became the primary support. I did have to grapple with the fact that I felt less valuable. I felt like my word meant less, like my opinion had less value in our home because I wasn't contributing financially. That was 100% another big assumption. I was providing so much value by being there with our children, by not having to have them in childcare, by providing the best quality care that I could for them. And I wasn't giving myself any value for that. But it took having a really hard, uncomfortable conversation with my husband that really honestly took some years to unravel and come to that realization of when the financial piece versus the effort and the work that you put in to be a mother. And so again, there's conversations that you get to have around what is your value in your family when you are producing less income with your business or your business is on hold because you're not at a stage of life where you have found the solution yet for your business in order to be able to grow the income the way you want. And the reason that I know that this is true is because there are literally statistics that show how women's businesses suffer and how women's businesses have success and failure rates. And I would venture to say a lot of it has to do with those times that they have to take off and the mindset that they have around it. There's a certain level of confidence that comes when you have kids. At least it was for me. Once I had children, it was like, okay, I'm an adult and I have these two humans that I am responsible for. And my ability to speak my mind and protect these two children, it was shocking to me the things that I was willing to say, the boundaries I was willing to set in order to protect these two tiny humans that were in my charge versus how I treated myself before I had kids. I used to be such a people pleaser. I used to be so compliant and I wanted to be a good girl. And I would let people get away with treating me terribly. And my confidence was not, I would say, compared to now from then, my confidence was nowhere near what I had. And I truly believe that's part of why my business growth was not what it could have been in my younger years, because I didn't have the mindset for it. I didn't know how to stand up for myself. I didn't know how to say the hard things. I didn't know how to let go of what other people thought of me. And so before you have kids, that's why I think doing that work is so important to get to these goals that you have for having kids, because I don't want you to have to go through the process of having kids just to get the confidence to really build your business the way that you want to. And have that, I always say, like, for me, if you don't want kids, 100% support you. It is the hardest, most amazing thing that I've ever done. And I've had other friends who, before I had kids, would tell me that. And I always hated when people said, just wait till you have kids, then you'll get it. It made me feel, and I wanted to have kids so badly, and I did not have kids until my mid-30s, but I wanted kids literally my whole life. And so as people were having kids and I didn't have mine and I wanted to, and they would say, you'll understand when you have kids. It was such a harsh reminder of, like, thanks for not including me in your club. Thanks for not really giving me the insight and just saying, I don't understand how you feel. It made me feel so bad. So I am really conscious to say I didn't understand before I had kids. And I also really want to give back to those people who don't have kids yet, because when you do, I want it to be such a better experience for you. And I mean, I know I said that earlier, but that's truly where my heart lies in having this conversation with women. So I feel like having children for me has been the most powerful course in leadership anyone could ever give me, because the unique thing about having kids is it teaches you commitment and dedication and grit. Because here you are with these humans that you're responsible for, and you can't get off the roller coaster. You're like, there's days you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. How do I get off the ride? And you can't. You just got to pull up your knickers and do it, right? And so that has taught me so much about what I'm capable of. And it was interesting when I was taking a leadership course several years ago now, it's been probably 5 years ago now, I witnessed the way that parents handled tasks that we had to do in the leadership course and the way that non-parents reacted. And it isn't any offense to the non-parents. It's that they have not yet tapped into their full capacity. And so the way that they thought they were capable of was so much less than what the parents thought they were capable of, because they'd already been battle tested. And so part of becoming a parent for me has been really getting to explore how much I am capable of. And I know there's still so much more that I can access. And so when someone tells me that they don't want to be a parent, totally get it. It is hard. And what I have developed, the mindset that I have developed, the capacity that I have developed, it's not just about being a parent and the rewards of that piece. It's like who you become in the process of being a parent that is just blows my mind and is so fulfilling. So all that to say, just to kind of talk to my non-parents out there who want to become parents and just encourage you, like, it is a journey, but it is the best kind of journey in who you will become. For those of you who have kids with you at home right now, who are preschool aged, I get it. It's such a hard balance, but I want to tell you, literally the year that my children started into school full time, both like the second child left and went to school full time, my income tripled. The revenue that my business created tripled. Now that was because I didn't have the things in place, like someone else to fill my shoes, or I had not built the revenue that I wanted to have the kind of childcare I wanted in my home. So because of that, my business had grown a lot slower. But when they hit elementary school, both of them, my income literally tripled. So I say that to give you hope, like it's coming. And you're just one solution away. You don't have to wait. There's certainly a way to start to change things, but also there's a little period of unraveling. So that may mean if you want to start growing your business more while your kids are little and preschool age, you may have to have some hard conversations and really look at, how am I going to unravel the situation here so that I'm showing up the best that I can and I'm really living in alignment with what's most important to me. For those in elementary age and middle school and high school, a lot of times the things that you really need at that stage of your business is really good boundaries on your time and really good focus. And so often, like if you heard my call or my podcast episode with Whitney Elkins Hutton a few episodes ago, one of the things we worked on with her is just like setting really good boundaries on her time. And it was interesting because she's like, wait, you mean I can just tell people when I work? Well, so often what happens is women end up not having really good boundaries on their time. And so they're still working when their kids are home. And what you really need to live in alignment with your vision is maybe that you don't work after they get home from school. And you've got to set really good boundaries. And it also means you've got a limited amount of time to get work done, which means you've got to focus in on income producing activities and really important pieces of your business. And you can't be doing everything yourself. You've got to do some hiring, which means you've got to work through some of the big assumptions that happen around that. So at all these different levels, and I would say the same is true for school age children. And then as you move into like the caregiver role for parents, you're going to have maybe some similar things between preschool aged kids and school aged kids, because it depends on the level of care that a elderly parent needs. And that's one of the other things that I've really been thinking about is with our parents aging, a lot of the wealth that is held in the United States is with baby boomers. And unfortunately, because of how I don't want to say, unfortunately, that wealth isn't necessarily going to pass down to these younger generations because of the way our healthcare system is structured and because of how we now often care for parents. You know, there are other cultures where parents come and live with you and you are the primary caregiver as you have an aging parent. Your parent is with you. And I would say that's culturally in the United States, not the norm for people. And so what happens is our parents go into assisted living facilities. All of their assets are being eaten up by the care that they're receiving. And so that wealth is not transferring down to younger generations. So one of the things that I'm working out in my mind as my parents are starting to age is, how do we preserve the wealth that my parents have created in making sure that that comes down and trickles down to the younger generations, which was their intention. And so looking at what does that mean for the caregiving? What will that look like? How do I set my business up to make sure that we have what we need to provide the care that we need, whether that looks like hiring people for assistance or it looks like we do the care ourselves. So it's really not different, but it's so related in the way that you set your business up. And so much of this and what has become really abundantly clear for me is that I want to work with specifically women around setting up their businesses financially, their mindset to actually be able to grow businesses that support their roles and what they want out of caregiving as parents. And so I want to encourage you, this is really a lot of where my heart lies. And so I want to really encourage you, because the podcast is more broad and we talk about a lot of different things. I want to really encourage you to follow me at Alicia St. G on Instagram. I want to really encourage you to follow me there because I've decided that that's really a place where I really want to unpack the journey of being a business owner and motherhood and caregiving. For a long time, I was trying to figure out, like, really, what is it that I can offer that is really specific and supportive and feels really aligned. And then recently, I was sitting in a mid-year review with Jen Boss, who's my accountant. She's been on the podcast a couple times. And I was having this whole realization that if women understood how to look at their budget, how to develop the mindset that they need to set their businesses up to support their role as caregiver, that they would have such a different experience and what powerhouses and what impact women could make both for them, their families, but also in the world with their businesses, because women are amazing business owners. The balance, though, of trying to be a mother or caregiver and have a business is a unique dynamic that I really want to support. And I've got Jen Boss in my corner. We're working to create a collaboration that will really support women to do that. So I really want to encourage you to go follow me at Alicia St. G. More to come on that. So with all of that being said, I hope that this supported you in just maybe getting a couple tidbits, maybe thinking of things a little bit differently, helping you not feel so alone in the process or like just at a disadvantage. Sometimes I see women be so hard on themselves and you are too powerful. You have too much to give to this world and your children to play small. And I want to support you in every way that I can. So with all of that being said, I'm sending you so much love. And if Jonathan were here, he would say, be well. Thanks for listening to the Conscious Edge podcast. Make sure you subscribe and take a moment to be kind and share this episode with someone you care about. Leave a review to help us bring more compassionate leaders building businesses and creating wealth to the table. And for show notes, head over to consciousedge.com/podcast. This podcast and the linked materials are presented solely for general information, educational, and entertainment purposes and should not be taken as personal or medical advice or any kind of mental health treatment. Please consult a medical or mental health professional if you feel you need such services. Please be advised that all investing and entrepreneurial endeavors involve risk, and the use of the education and information on this podcast and linked materials is at the user's own risk.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.